Okay, so it may only be the month of May, but silly season has begun, and it has started off with a bang. We literally have a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack today. So you might want to sit tight for this one. So the first news that just dropped, and this was like in the morning of Wednesday, Michael McDowell to Spire, leaving Front Row Motorsports to Spire. I never thought he will leave Front Row Motorsports. That's just the first thought that went through my head. I didn't even know McDowell was in a contract year until that announcement that he was not returning. We're talking about a guy who almost single-handedly elevated that organization to compete for top 20 finishes on basically a weekly basis. His name is almost synonymous with Front Row Motorsports at this point due to what he has accomplished in this past 7 years. Also, for the second straight year, Front Row Motorsports has just lost a driver to Spire. First it was Zane Smith and now Michael McDowell, as if Ford hasn't gone through enough this season. And obviously, the fan reaction, the response to the fans was obviously like, why would Michael McDowell do this? This is a downgrade. Obviously, people are bringing up the Tier 1 alliance that Ford has with Front Row Motorsports, the alliance that they have with Penske and whatnot. And, at face value, going from, a premier Ford team, because now Front Row is one of Ford's premier teams, to what is basically a mid-pack team in Chevrolet, in the Chevy camp. Obviously, people are looking at that at face value and saying, yeah, McDowell ended up being a downgrade. But the fact that, Spire Motorsports, they are on the upswing, and this coupled with the fact that, Front Row Motorsports, especially with Ford, they have just been just atrocious to start this season. It doesn't matter that Front Row Motorsports is like a Tier 1 team with Ford. A Tier 1 partnership will only get you so far when the manufacturer as a whole is just sucking. So yeah, he's going to Front Row Motorsports. And speaking of Zane Smith, this is the driver that McDowell is replacing at Spire Motorsports, because he will be driving the 71 car now. Now, what does this mean for Zane Smith? Is this the end of his Cup stint? Nothing has been confirmed yet, but I don't think so. Look, it's not a secret that Zane Smith has been disappointing this season. Well, disappointing is an understatement. He is last in points among the full-time drivers, and as a matter of fact, he is below Cas Gralla in points, and Gralla is a driver who is not really running part-time because he is registered as a Cup Series rookie for this season, but he's not running all races this season either. He's going to be running 30 or so, 25 to 30 races this season. So obviously, from Spire's point of view, it makes perfect sense to replace Zane Smith with McDowell. He is a proven veteran. And speaking of McDowell here, he's a proven veteran with tons of mileage and experience. That will always be an upgrade, especially compared to a rookie driver with just a handful of years in the Truck Series. Obviously, he's a Truck Series champion, but he's had minimal sick time in Xfinity, and this is what I honestly fear with drivers, skipping series to go to the Cup Series. They tend to be hit or miss, either skipping the Truck Series to go from ARCA to Xfinity, or just skipping the Xfinity Series to go from the Trucks to the Cup Series. These drivers tend to be hit or miss, and so far Zane is looking like a huge miss right now. Again, I don't like judging drivers based on their first season, but if Michael McDowell is on the table and Zane Smith is having a disappointing rookie campaign, you're obviously gonna pull the plug on him. It doesn't matter if it's just his first year. It's Michael freaking McDowell, man. No one knows what's gonna happen with Zane Smith. The only thing that we know is that wherever he lands, it will be on a partnership with Trackhouse, because he is still under contract with them. So wherever he lands next will 100% be in a partnership with them. And there are a couple of options, the most obvious of which is, Colleague Racing, the other partner with Trackhouse. And it's no secret that Colleague Racing has been one of, if not the most disappointing organization in NASCAR so far this season. Between their struggles in Xfinity and Cup combined, they got nothing to lose. They got nothing to lose letting Zane Smith drive one of their cars for 2025 and who knows how many more years down the line. And whichever car he runs, it doesn't really matter. Daniel Hemrick in the 31, it's as expendable as they come. So if they want to put Zane in the 31, they can just do that. However, it wouldn't surprise me if they decided to go back to 2 full-time drivers like they did last year and just put Zane in the 16 instead and keep Hemrick in the 31. That seems like the more feasible option for me. They could also decide to bring Zane Smith down to Xfinity. That's option number 2, and have him drive one of their cars. And while that is possible, especially since, in my opinion, it will help Zane wonders if he gets experience in Xfinity first before returning to the Cup, that scenario would be more complicated because it would involve sponsorship and opening up a 4th full-time car. Unless, of course, Kaulig decides to dump Josh Williams after this season, but I doubt that because he brings sponsorship. Obviously, you're not moving AJ Allmendinger or Shane Van Gisbergen because obviously Allmendinger is their immovable object. And Van Gisbergen, like Zane Smith, he's a Trackhouse driver as well. So wherever he goes, we'll decide will be on obviously what Trackhouse decides to do with them. Unless Kaulig decides to go the Spire route and dump him like Spire did with Zane. But I don't really think they're going to do that because unlike Spire, Kaulig doesn't have that many bargaining chips as they did a couple of years ago. But the third and final option, however, is the most out there in my opinion. But given the landscape of the charter market and speculation that a certain team might be looking to sell big, it's possible. And hear me out on this one, because you gotta think about this. Trackhouse would not have agreed to the McDowell replacing Zane Smith at Spire if they didn't have a plan for Zane in mind. What if, and again, hear me out on this one, what if Trackhouse is looking to bring Project 91 as a 3rd full-time entry and have Zane Smith drive that 91 car? Now, you may be thinking, they would need a charter for that, and you're right. They would need a charter, but as I mentioned earlier, there is a team looking to unload on those precious commodities. And that team is Stewart-Haas Racing. And this is another rumor that's, in my opinion, more of a worst-kept secret at this point, but yeah. Speculation is that SHR, they are looking to downsize and sell 2 of their charters, and at the moment this rumor has been, at the moment that this rumor was thrown around, the big question people were asking was, well, which 2 drivers is SHR gonna keep if it comes down to that? And the most obvious answer, and for good reason too, because they are the 2 best drivers right now, were Chase Briscoe and Noah Gragson, right? Well, not really. You see, Chase Briscoe is safe by virtue of being their number 1 guy and being endorsed by Tony Stewart personally. He drives their 14 car. He's from Indiana. He is safe. Noah Gragson, though, he's a bit more complicated, mainly due to the situation with Josh Berry. Because like Chase Briscoe, Berry, he's endorsed by another all-time great in Kevin Harvick. As a matter of fact, when Harvick retired, he was the one who picked Josh Berry to replace him in the 4 car. And SHR, they made a whole-ass marketing campaign to promote Josh Berry taking over the reins of the 4 car and whatnot. So it would be seen as a waste of money and resources to dump the driver you have just invested so much on after just 1 season, even if it has been a very disappointing season so far. But the only way I see Gragson staying over Josh Berry in this scenario is if Kevin Harvick decides to pull the plug on the Josh Berry thing and just tells Tony, do what you gotta do, you're the owner. Now, do I think Harvick would do that? Or he will consider doing that? Of course not. Because doing so would damage not only his relationship with Josh Berry, but also Harvick's own relationship with Dale Earnhardt Jr., And you gotta remember, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is how Josh Berry got his start into NASCAR, and that's how he eventually got to Kevin Harvick. And when it came time for Harvick to retire, he decided, you know what, I'm gonna go with Josh Berry as my replacement. It was Harvick who basically pushed Stewart to sign Josh Berry, and you know how Stewart loves his, drivers with grassroots background and stuff like that, drivers that have like, late model experience and whatnot. And Josh Berry obviously has plenty of late model experience and that not. Stewart loves those type of race car drivers, so it went pretty easy. The signing of Josh Berry went pretty smoothly. The transition, obviously, on the track, it hasn't been pretty, but from a chemistry standpoint and how he and Rodney Childers, they managed to hit it off right there. If Harvick decides to decides to tell Tony to pull the plug on the Josh Berry thing, how do you think Dale Jr. is gonna feel? How do you think Rodney Childers is gonna feel? And you gotta think, Harvick also has a management firm, Kevin Harvick Incorporated. They still exist. Not as a race team, but as an agency. He will burn so many bridges if that were to happen, which is why I don't think he will do that. So as much as I want to say that Noah Gragson will stay, there's just no possible scenario where I see the team choosing him over Briscoe or even Josh Berry if, again, SHR decides to downsize that much. And I say that much because I don't think Stewart-Haas Racing will sell that much. Yes, I think they will downsize, but in my opinion, it won't be like that drastic of a downgrade. It will be like a 2-car operation. No, it will be a 3-car operation. They're gonna sell 1 charter. I don't think they're gonna sell 2 though. Those rumors of Tony Stewart selling his share of the team, becoming a 2-car operation. Hell, I even read a rumor that SHR and Front Row Motorsports could merge. Part of that rumor has to be because of the Ryan Preece, being a potential candidate for the 34 car if SHR decides to sell their charters. And again, Ryan Preece is pretty much the odd man out. I notice how I never mentioned Ryan Preece when talking about SHR. That's because he is the odd man out. There are 2 things that are pretty certain in this equation. SHR is going to be selling at least one of their charters, and it doesn't matter which combination of charters it's going to be. It could be the 41 and the 10, the 41 and the 4. It's going to be the 41. The 41 is going to be among those that's going to be sold. So Ryan Preece is screwed either way. And even if they downsize, even if my opinion or my prediction that Stewart-Haas Racing will downsize to a 3-car operation is true, that will still mean that Preece is still the odd man out. So those rumors of, again, Tony Stewart selling his share of the team, becoming a 2-car operation, that rumor of, Front Row Motorsports merging with Stewart-Haas Racing, Tony Stewart just selling his share of the team to Front Row Motorsports so that they merge and become like Front Row, Gene Haas Racing or whatever. Those rumors are way out there. That's a big reach. What I think will happen is that Stewart-Haas Racing, they will sell one of their charters, obviously the 41 charter. Briscoe, Berry, and Gragson, they're all safe. We all know it's the 41 that's in real danger, especially after Ryan Preece came out saying that during that Kansas weekend that he was left out of team meetings, and the fact that Gene Haas and not Tony Stewart owns the 41. So yeah, the 41 is being shut down. Their charter is going to be sold to Trackhouse so they can have Zane Smith go full-time in the Project 91 car. That's option 3 for Zane Smith. It involves Stewart-Haas Racing, but it's pretty possible. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it's more possible than you might think, because of what I mentioned about the whole McDowell deal and Trackhouse being very tight-lipped about it. It's probably because they have a backup plan in mind for Zane Smith. And this, I think, is a plan that Justin Marks has in mind. He doesn't care about Spire replacing their development driver with Michael McDowell, because he is right now negotiating with Stewart-Haas Racing to buy one of their charters for Zane Smith to go full-time in Project 91. As for who replaces McDowell in the 34, because you gotta remember, this is me talking about the 34 car, and McDowell leaving Front Row is what started all of this chain reaction. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just drawing a blank. It could be Ryan Preece for all we know, because of the aforementioned rumors that SHR and Front Row could merge, which I don't think those rumors are true, but considering that Ryan Preece could be a free agent, there's a very high chance that Ryan Preece ends up being a free agent after this season. Hey, he could be a solid replacement for McDowell. Although it could also be Harrison Burton, that's another option. I think it's about time the Wood brothers move on from him. And besides, he and Todd Gilliland are pretty close friends, so I don't think Gilliland will be opposed to having Harrison Burton as a teammate, his best buddy. So yeah, just a lot of speculation now, but man, silly season is off to a bang, man. Unbelievable. This just came out of left field, and it's only May. It's only gonna get crazier from there. This is just a taste of things to come. I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen in the next coming months, because man, I guess this is gonna be also one of the records for like the earliest silly season, because we're only a third of the way through the season. There's a lot of racing to go left and right, a lot of time for teams to either collapse or turn their seasons around. But yeah, man, silly season's wild.